This is Kelly Haag, who took over a 24-year-old dog food brand and now is actively putting AI in the business. And he's not even technical. And once he realized the power of AI, he went all in. And now he's building some very cool apps that help accelerate his business. So in this conversation, we get into exactly how he does this without a technical background, the exact tools he's using, plus a few pro tips he has found to be working, where AI marketing actually works for him and falls flat, and ultimately why he's convinced businesses of his size with the right data can now outcompete entire departments. So if you run a business and you're looking to implement AI, but you just don't know where to start, watch this one to the end. I guess we'll start off with an introduction, essentially what you do, who you are, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm Kelly Haag. I am part owner and co-CEO of Boulder Dog Food Company. It's a company that's been family owned for 24 years, going on 25. And my wife and business partner and I purchased it from my father-in-law about a year ago today. I think, as we kick this off, Marlon, one of the interesting things about sort of starting from scratch is Ed, my father-in-law and the founder, he didn't use a lot of technology at all.
Sure.
And over 20 years was able to grow to be in 26 different states.
Wow.
But it was all word of mouth. And so we kind of looked at this and said, there are a lot of levers to pull here. And really started from scratch with a branding or a rebrand, and then applying, better and more technology tools to the business.
Prior to AI or having any knowledge of AI, what was it like before kind of this technology came onto the scene?
Yeah, I think that the before story even starts with, my prior career was in asset management. I ran product strategies groups for, different asset managers. And the funny thing was, like, we would tinker with AI, and this 2 years ago, which is infinity at this point.
Sure.
But, we would tinker with AI, but we didn't really dive in because the finance department would solve the finance problems, the legal department would solve the legal problems. And so we didn't really have to forge ahead sort of in a mercenary style in learning this stuff. So rolling up our sleeves here was completely different. So we went from using AI 20 minutes a week to 6 hours a day sometimes. So
yeah, I love that.
Anyway,
I love that. Yeah, a lot of it feels like magic, doesn't it? Just like kind of building whatever kind of you can bolt onto the company, and obviously you can get massive ROI, which we'll talk about here shortly. When did you start building with AI, or when did it really become? When did you really become aware of the fact that hey, we can use AI to leverage this for the business?
I think when I finally understood that the only limits with AI were literally my own creativity. I think that I didn't really really understand that if I spent the time and I got real creative about outcomes I wanted, that I could figure it out. And that was kind of I had kind of a breakthrough with my first Claude artifact, where we were able to effectively recreate an application from scratch that basically was a marketing funnel and design, and then would attach basically a prompt or send a prompt up through Higgsfield, another application.
Right.
And being able to create an actual app that's talking between two separate applications and getting outcomes that are like digital videos and static ads. That was our first kind of breakthrough. And that's when we only had two apps talking to each other.
Gotcha.
And then it just gets more complex from there, but I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, so before kind of diving into what you've built, because you built some very cool stuff, what's kind of, I guess, like the biggest needle mover? Would you say, is it potentially saving costs with AI, or is it just moving quicker so you can actually go to market a lot faster compared to your competitors? From your standpoint, like, how do you really look at this technology?
Yeah, so I've got kind of a map on a whiteboard that kind of shows, the biggest buckets, because the ROI it's there for each bucket.
Sure.
I think one of the places two of the places that stand out is really being able to manage your customers. So an actual CRM that is able to understand the behavior of the customers, when was the last touch point, can reach out to them automatically, has all the data on sales, like those CRMs, you pay a lot of money off the shelf, and we know the big publicly traded companies out there doing this.
Yeah.
But we were able to recreate or create one of those from scratch, and so the ROI in that, to get to the answer to the question, is that the customers are just being touched and managed in ways that they aren't used to. I mean, they're seeing us more, they're hearing us more. I know exactly what their behavior is and when to reach out. And that's basic for a small business, but it was never in place before. Yeah. So that's that customer management is so powerful. I think the other one that we're seeing real ROI is, we have 12 employees and 3 of them are the owners. The other 9 are all in production. So I'm basically the webmaster and the marketing designer. My wife's kind of the CMO. Jason, our business partner, is the CFO. But we had to figure out, like, can we create ads that are high market quality in enough numbers to be able to actually deploy them on Meta? And usually you need a designer, and you need a deployer, and you need a buyer of media. And so that's probably been the biggest place, or one of the biggest, where we've been able to create that tool that allows us to create. We can create 20 ads in a day, which usually you would need a whole marketing department for. So those are kind of 2 examples.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, I mean, that especially with the e-com side of things, right now you can definitely plug and play a lot of it, especially on the creative side. And the thing I think we're starting to see as well is there's obviously still pushback maybe to the AIification of creatives or whatever. Like Gary Vee says, I think in the next year, like, it just becomes commonplace, right? And then it's just like, it's AI, right? I mean, I think the way I look at it is the objective, even though it's AI, it's like, that's not the point. Is like, is it still good messaging? Is it still like, are you still talking to your ICP? And if you are, it doesn't matter if it's AI or Clay for that matter. It's like, you'll still get purchases, right? And so just because, it's AI right now, there is pushback, but I think eventually here, people are just like, it's AI, it does not matter. I think eventually kind of this pushback we'll see eventually just becomes, it's AI, but it's better than the real stuff.
Yeah, I think we're on that continuum. Like, if you look at static ads we create with AI, I don't think there's any pushback with that. I think that the static, for some reason, psychologically is accepted because it's so hard to tell the difference between someone who's really good in Canva and then AI. I do think in the video, there's like a growing acceptance. So like if I did a video showing, pouring bison bits into my hand and then sprinkling them across the table, like, people will accept that. I can probably get away with that. I think when people have an emotional attachment to something, it's totally different. So like, for example, dogs, people are very emotional about dogs. Yeah. And so if I created a video handing a dog a treat and the dog loves it, the tail's wagging, and someone's thought that was AI, I mean, it's kind of not false advertising, but you're losing that emotional hook. And like, even in our logo, the bee in Boulder has a tail wag, and it's about that emotional attachment to the animal. So I always like to test myself, like, is this going to sort of get rejected on an emotional level? Because it's kind of like a fake connection or interaction between a dog and a person. So it gets kind of, not to get too heady, but it is. It's a little complicated.
Yeah. 100%, especially right now where we're in. When it comes to those AI ads, what do you find to be working at the moment, to your point there?
Well, I think diversity of ads is key, right? So like, we all know that Andromeda started focusing just on creatives, and so you're not targeting people the same way. So you need diversity to be effective. And I think for me, the stuff that's really been, I think, the most powerful, and it's the least interesting ads in my opinion, are sort of the product attribute ads. So it's like single ingredient, pure bison or wild caught salmon, and it just shows like arrows to the bag. Those convert at like 3 times the rate of the other things. Because I have this vision to be a lifestyle brand. We love to talk about Patagonia and things like that. Can we be the Patagonia of dog treats, That
would be great.
But those ads, though, like a woman in the woods with her dog, it's AI generated, those just don't perform as well. So I do think maybe it's part of the pushback on the AI, still a little bit on the static side, but yeah, I've had the best luck with product attributes through our machine.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So with that being said, I know you're building some stuff. If you care to share, by all means, you can just share your screen there.
For example, in March there was a Google update, and for whatever reason, our SEO broke down, and we got de-indexed, and so we lost a lot of traffic for a few weeks. So I basically wanted to create something that would help me always stay on top of the website. So, when you look at this, like there's an SEO website optimizer here. So if I go into this, basically it will scan the website. It'll look for recommendations for, in better alt text. Basically anything, it picked up that one of my headers was not H1, which is basically not considered optimized for Google. So it basically, at the click of a button, will basically scan the website. The other thing that's really powerful is like I can compare our website to like a competitor's, and it will basically tell me where the competitor is stronger than us, which is really super cool. And then of course it's hooked into Higgsfield, so if I want to make design changes, I can do that sort of in real time. And so basically there's 10 skills created to basically support the website. And that's, this is still in build mode, so there's a couple of these skills that aren't quite working yet, but you can kind of see, you take someone who's a novice like myself when it comes to web design and web support, and basically you can create an entire sort of flight manual for yourself to support the website. One thing I did want to note is sort of as a hack, Marlon, is whenever I build one of these, you obviously have to start with a prompt. I usually build the prompts in Gemini and basically have Gemini think it's smarter than Claude. You can go on Fiverr and you can find, some reasonably priced professionals. But, to build like a CRM, I mean, I think you would get quoted, $3,000 to $5,000 or something like that. Sure. I think that price is coming down from much higher, but the problem with that is that people don't know your business. Right. That's the thing. Like when you're looking at all the the AI experts online, and like X is just, that's pretty much the entire feed now is just AI experts. Like that's great. You can learn from these experts, but they don't know your business. They don't know your data. They don't know which applications need to talk to each other. And so, yes, you could pay the money for this, but if you grind it out and just learn it, you not only save money, but you just end up with a highly customized interface on whatever you create.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And so, walk me through this app here.
So this is probably the most fun of the apps. Okay. So basically, one of the things that's never been done at Boulder Dog Food is like sort of actively reach out to, wholesale pet stores around the country. And there's 12 to 15,000, something like that, pet stores in the country. And we don't want to just blanket email people and phone call. We want to get really targeted. And we have a certain kind of brand. I mean, our treats are on the very premium side. It's a higher price point. We'd like to think we know it's because of the quality. And so there's certain pet stores that carry us and certain that don't. And we're not really in big box stores like PetSmart. So what we wanted to do is sort of say, where is there dog density, where there's a lot of dogs? What are the cities that, by definition, basically have the most dog parks, the most boutique dog stores? You do have to search by, a level of affluence, because, some people can afford the treats and some people can't. Sure. I mean, that's just how it works. So what we do in this app is you can type in any city, and you can see I typed in Portland earlier. And basically Portland on the scale, if you look here, it gets a 90, and I of course have to use hilarious, pet references here, like 90 paw points. I love that. So if you look at it, Portland, is relatively affluent, 20 out of 25, has a pet culture. So this is something that Gemini and Claude designed almost together, was like, how do you determine pet culture? And that's kind of the number of dog parks. So, how often does, social media related to dogs show up? I mean, there's like 6 or 7 different factors that went into pet culture.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then we go into the boutique scene. Like, how many of these pet stores are considered boutiques by a certain definition versus like big box? And then the holistic market, I'm actually forgetting the attributes of that, but that was sort of like all the other attributes put together. So basically what happens is you get a score, and I mean, I can do this for any place. I can do this for Rapid City, South Dakota, which is where I grew up. I can do it, for literally any town. And then what happens is it identifies 5 stores, and I can make it identify more. But now this is sort of the fun part. So Healthy Pet in Lake Oswego, it's a boutique. It's got 4.8 stars, which means that it's highly likely to want to sell our treats. So these are stores that carry like legacy brands, so family-owned brands. They don't carry, treats like Purina, and they're really catering to the local community. So they're actually visual in the local community. And so basically what happens here is it'll target Healthy Pet in Lake Oswego, and it will connect itself to Hunter.io, which will find the owner's email or the right email.
Right.
And then it will draft an email that's just a cold intro. And I can always follow up with a phone call, but the cold intros are interesting because the emails are curtailed to the stores. Yeah, right. So that's just a few examples of what we're doing. I think the when you slow down, you can say, what's the punchline on some of this stuff? I have a friend that's worked in tech for his whole life, and we have these little kind of, I don't know if they're competitions, but we like to wow each other with our next creation. And it's funny because he doesn't own a company, and so he's laughing because he's like, I don't know how you get that good at this, because he's been in tech forever. He goes, and it's because I've got the sandbox. So I've got all the data. I'm using 50 different applications in the business. I can intertwine any number of those applications to create whatever the outcome is I want. So my sandbox is so much more powerful than an individual that's playing around with things. So like for a small business, if you've got the data and you've got sales data, you've got performance on website data, you've got everything from the customer, I mean, it's just limitless. And so we always joke around that there's no way he can kind of compete on our weekly rituals of designing stuff because he just doesn't have the sandbox. So it's pretty powerful.
Okay, very cool. I'll end off with this then. What's kind of your main message? Obviously, you've been playing with these tools for a little while now. Just from other people who are either, they're pushing back on AI or they're just afraid that they're not technical. A lot of us are not technical, right? But somehow these tools are very easy to maneuver and get around. What's kind of your message to them?
I think my umbrella message is this is the great equalizer. I can do things with 12 people and 9 of them are in production, and there's 3 of us doing stuff like this. I can create an entire infrastructure, an entire technology stack to support the business. It does take time, but the power of it, people just have to understand the power that is there. I think the other thing is, my wife and I debate this a lot. She likes to listen to the podcasts and the classes, and that stuff's great, especially this one. But the key message for me to people is you have to play with it, because what's going to happen is you're gonna stumble along and then you're gonna have a breakthrough. Like when I first connected Higgsfield up with Claude and I got my first ad out, that was a huge breakthrough. Right. And then you'll stumble along and you get a little more complicated, or you get a little more sophisticated, and then you have another breakthrough. Like the rating system for pet stores, that was kind of a breakthrough. Right. And the more you play with it, you think like AI, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah. And so when I see people that have been in the corporate world and they haven't been playing with this stuff, because the legal department's doing legal stuff and finance is doing finance stuff, like they don't have to put all of the data points together. you kind of step into the void with this stuff and start to think differently. And I think that only happens if you play with it. And I think like when you watch an expert on, a YouTube channel or something, that's great supplemental. But have a vision. Just think of the outcome first, and then force yourself to get there using the tools. You just got to keep failing. That's the only reason we made progress.
Yeah, for sure. And especially now with newer models like Fable 5. Hopefully we get that model back. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, because that was magical. But the better these models get, you just have to say, we're gonna get to the point where it's like build me a $1 billion business, right? Like it's kind of the meme, but we're gonna get there, right? So I mean, yeah, to any business owner, again, you have your data, you can just use these tools. Most likely you do have data, or you have some type of data, right? You just use these tools now to, again, like Kelly's doing, building for your company, things you want that, micro SaaS, very important. And now everyone kind of has this ability to build the micro SaaS to, excel, or at least, like you said, kind of level the playing field.
I think the final kind of point on that too is, 6 months ago, I didn't have cloud hooked up to Shopify. I didn't have cloud hooked to Higgsfield and all these other apps, or Klaviyo, who runs all of our emails. It's an infinite potential to be able to have these massive data sets talk to each other. They weren't even initially designed to do that. It's only in the last year, and probably 6 months for us mainstream people, that we've been able to really get something like Windsor AI to help us like connect everything. And so the bringing huge data sets together, the type of reporting, the insights are really powerful. And not to ramble on, but the other thing is, don't forget to pit each AI agent against each other. I think that is really powerful. I always have Gemini up and Claude up, and I kind of make them fight for the answer. So that's another kind of trick we've been using.
Okay, I will leave off with that. Remember to use, multiple LLMs, agnostic towards this type of stuff, and then just, I guess, like Kelly said, just keep building, have those breakthroughs, because those breakthroughs are money. Once you have those, you start realizing potential that you can do,
Absolutely.
for your personal life, for your business, whatever the case may be.
Totally.